family, institution, or business is often determined by the quality of the questions they ask. Weak readers will ask questions like, who offended me? Who is against me? How do I protect my position? But strong readers ask the question, what is God saying? What is changing? What must I improve? What am I not seeing? Who am I becoming? So the difference between stagnation and transformation is just one honest question. So therefore, the leader must always ask himself the question. In my instances of leadership, oftentimes I've asked myself, am I too busy as to become irrelevant? And I've never allowed a situation where I am so busy that I stop becoming irrelevant. Whether I am serving in the church, or when I was serving in the government, or when I am doing curriculum work, or leadership training, or anything else, I must ask myself the mission question, because it is possible to find a situation where you are too busy and you are not able to get the right questions. Every level of leadership requires a new level of questioning. So the purpose question is question number 1. Organizations die when purpose becomes blurred. Many leaders maintain systems. Many leaders preserve traditions. Many leaders protect positions, but they forget the mission. Jesus asked the purpose question. In Luke chapter 19 and verses 10, he said, the Son of Man has come to seek and save that which was lost. He never lost sight of his mission. A church can become program-driven instead of purpose-driven. A college can become certificate-driven instead of transformation-driven. A leader can become survival-driven instead of vision-driven. And so every time we must have that mission clarity, because without mission clarity, the energy scatters, people disengage, systems become political, meetings multiply, but the impact reduces. So the question of mission is a very critical question. Why does your organization exist? If your ministry closed tomorrow, would the community miss it? What problems are you solving, and what kingdom assignment are you fulfilling? Question number 2 is the people question. And the people question is a question, who are we serving? Leadership is not about the leader. Leadership is about the stewardship of people. When Jesus ministered, he ministered to the hungry, to those who are broken, to the rejected. He came to the confused. He came to the oppressed. So great leadership begins with understanding people deeply. Many leaders today talk too much. They listen too little. They read structures but do not understand people. And so we have to ask ourselves, are we understanding people? Because the day we fail to understand people, then that is the day we lose the reason for our leadership. Question number 3 that every leader must ask himself is the vision question. What does success look like for me? If success is undefined, confusion increases, politics grows, business replaces results. When you look at the story of Nehemiah, Nehemiah had a clear burden, he had a clear target, he had a clear strategy, he had measurable outcomes. So when he did the walls, he rebuilt them very fast. because he refused to confuse motion with progress. He refused to confuse just activity with productivity or non-productivity. So it's very, very important for the reader, a mature reader, to ask himself questions all the time. The vision question: what are we producing? If it is in the ministry, are we seeing discipleship? Are we seeing leadership, multiplication? Are we seeing transformed lives? What are we trying to produce? Question number 4 is a question of reality. It's the reality question. And in the reality question, we are asking, what is no longer working? This is a question that separates courageous readers from comfortable readers. It is important to interrogate what is working and what is not working. Sometimes we persist with what is no longer working. Maybe the structure is outdated. Maybe the system is tired. Maybe the strategy has expired. Maybe the culture is toxic. Maybe the model is no longer working. And so it is important as a reader to always ask the question, what is working and what is no longer working? The greatest enemy of future success is the current comfort. And so we have always to interrogate the issues of what is working and what is not working. We are able to perfect and keep what is working and make it better. And what is not working, we are able to go back and be able to look at it. Before I go for a short break, question number 5 is the adaptability question. What must change now? Everything changes. Technology changes. Culture changes. Leadership dynamics change. Learning patterns change. Ministry environments change. In the Bible, we understand the story of the sons of Issachar in 1 Chronicles chapter 12 and verses 32. The Bible says that these were men who understood the times. They knew what Israel ought to do, and they did it. So great leaders, they interpret seasons, they anticipate change, and then they adjust strategically. So it is possible for one to keep moving. It is possible for one to keep learning the programs, but eventually they may get to a point where they are rigid, they are defensive, they are nostalgic, they are resistant. Right now in the age of AI, AI is changing education, leadership, it's changing communication, it's changing ministry. So the question is not whether change is coming. The question is, will readers shape the future, or will they be shocked by that future? That is why it is important for you to keep training yourself so that you don't find yourself shocked by the future. You shape the future. Before we go to the rest of the questions, let us hear from Nairobi Pentecostal Bible College, a college that is training Christian ministers in Africa and all over the world. I want to introduce you to a very important opportunity. Is this the year when you are trusting and seeking God to be trained, to be empowered to serve God in your various ministry callings? Nairobi Pentecostal Bible College has created programs that will enable you to become more effective in your ministry. This year, the Diploma in Christian Ministry and the Diploma in Bible and Theology have been curated for you so that you can be trained and become better for ministry. We are offering half scholarship for all new applicants. And so follow the link below and speak to us and let us see how you can be trained and become better. Here at Nairobi Pentecostal Bible College, we exist to nurture your potential and build your character. God bless you. Well, tonight we are talking about questions. Every level of leadership requires a new level of questioning. And you are saying great leaders ask great questions. And we have just mentioned about 5 of those questions. Question number 1 is a purpose question. Why do we exist? Question number 2 is a people question. Who are we serving? Does the leader understand who he serves? Question number 3 is the vision question. What does success look like for me? If it is not defined, it is confused. Question number 4 is the reality question. What is no longer working? Whatever is not working, we change it. What is working, we strengthen it. Question number 5, what must change now? Is the adaptability question. As things continue to change, we also need to change, because yesterday's strategies will not bring the answers to today's problems. Question number 6 is what I call the self-leadership question. And this is the question, am I growing as a leader? The greatest leadership challenge is often internal. John Maxwell says that leadership ability is the reed that determines a person's level of effectiveness, is a ceiling. Therefore, a leader can preach growth, talk about growth, teach about growth, demand growth, but then they are personally declining. And so that is why we say that it is important for the leader to grow himself. There are rooms that I have entered and I've realized that there is a different capacity that is required here. And so every time I approach a new leadership conversation, a new leadership context, a new leadership room, or if I enter a new leadership room, I ask myself what capacity is required for me to serve those that are before me. And so the questions that we ask ourselves are questions like, what books are shaping you? Who collects you? What skills are you developing? What environments are stretching you? What are your bright spots? And this is what I know. If you do not grow yourself, it is not possible to grow others adequately. Question number 7 is a legacy question. Who am I developing? Leadership that dies with a leader is incomplete leadership. It is not good for the leader to die with a baton in his hand. Jesus developed 12 disciples. He took time with them. So leadership failure is about building dependence. Leadership failure is a situation where you fear strong people, you suppress emerging leaders. But healthy leaders raise successors. And one of the greatest joys in leadership is watching people you mentored begin leading effectively. True leadership is not proving you are powerful. It is reproducing yourself in others. In fact, they say like this, that the greatest success is the success that comes after you're no longer there. Question number 8. What are we tolerating? It's a culture question. Whatever leadership tolerates eventually becomes a culture. So we have some culture warning signs. For example, things like lateness, poor excellence, gossip, mediocrity, entitlement, financial irresponsibility. All these are problems that come, inconsistency, toxic politics. Culture is not what leaders preach. Culture is what leaders permit repeatedly. Question number 9 is the legacy question. And the legacy question asks, what will outlive me? Titles expire, buildings age, possessions change, but impact can outlive a lifetime. Paul said in 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verses 2, that the things that you have heard me say, commit these to faithful men who will also be able to teach others. So Paul thought generationally. He talked of faithful men. And then these faithful men will give the leadership capacity to other faithful men. This is a reality. The greatest leaders think beyond applause. They think beyond elections. They think beyond contracts. They think beyond current seasons. They build legacy. This is a question that I put to you tonight. If you died today, what would continue? Would the systems continue? Would people remain empowered? Would institutions survive? Would values remain? Great leadership has great continuity. And so questions create destiny. The future belongs to leaders who ask deep questions. They think clearly. They learn continuously. They adapt courageously. They lead purposefully. And so, Peter Drucker, one of the greatest management experts in the world, said that the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence. It is acting with yesterday's logic, inability to change. John C. Maxwell, the greatest leadership guru, says everything rises and falls on leadership. So the question that I ask you tonight is this: which leadership question challenged you the most? What difficult truth have you been avoiding? What is it that must change immediately? What legacy are you building? What leadership capacity must you develop next? I want to add you some other questions. And the other question that you should ask as a leader is, what am I required to do? Because when you ask the question, what am I required to do, it's a question of responsibility. Understanding your function is critical to effectiveness. The definition of your role. What am I required to do? Every leader must ask himself or herself that question, and that makes them effective. Another question I want to say that every leader must ask himself is the capacity question. What knowledge, skills, and attitudes are required for me to deliver? Last week in the leadership room, I dealt with the question of capacity. I want to encourage you to go back to that program for last week and see I covered almost a whole hour on the issue of capacity. And we say that when capacity is lacking, then you find that effectiveness is challenged. And so the leader must ask himself the capacity question. The other question that I want to add to the questions I have put to you tonight is the eternity question. What will matter beyond this life? There are so many things that we do here, some of them will have no effect in eternity. For those of you who are of faith, you know that the Bible says that we are looking forward to that time when we shall be welcomed with this message. Well, good and faithful servant. You have been a faithful, welcome, good and faithful servant. I think that's what it says. Well done, good and faithful servant. Yes, I got it. Well done, good and faithful servant. We all desire that aspect where we will be given that welcome and will be appreciated for the work that we have done. So this has been my message tonight in this times session. What questions are you asking? Great leaders are directed by great questions. And when you know how to ask the questions, you will develop people around you who also ask great questions.
It's 21 hours.
The reason why you're limited is because of the questions that you are asking. The quality of your questions determines the solutions that you receive. The quality of your questions determine the assumptions you can uncover. The quality of your questions determines the solutions you can get. So the question that I'm asking you tonight is, are you asking questions? And that is where I leave you tonight as I hand you over to Nairobi Pentecostal Bible College so that they can tell you about the programs that they are offering in Christian ministry, in Bible and theology, in counseling, psychology, and in the short courses that they are doing to impact leaders. Because when you ask questions, you will see the gap. And when you see the gap, one of the ways to meet that gap is by training. That is why institutions like Nairobi Pentecostal Bible College exist, so that they can train you in your area of calling and develop your leadership capacity for effectiveness. Until we meet again on Wednesday, a time like this is my question to you. What questions are you asking? Because great leaders ask great questions. Over to you, NPBC.
Are you looking for a school where you can elevate your knowledge about God? Nairobi Pentecostal Bible College is the best option for you.
We have programs in counseling, psychology. We have programs in Christian ministry. We have programs in biblical and theological studies. We are just about to embark on the May intake, and we are offering half scholarship to every person that is going to be entering in the full-time program in their first term in the month of May.
For more info, visit www.npbc.co.ke or call us through 075-456-9687 or 074-090-9222. Send us an email through admin@npbc.co.ke.